Welcome back to another episode of Riv Academy. This is probably my woo, third or fourth episode in. Promise you, you'll get a season out of me. And I'm just here to talk some Orlando Magic basketball. I have a guest that I'm going to bring up here in a few. But first, shout out to Pick a Side. Shout out to the Joel Moran Show. Shout out to the Fantasy Reaction. And of course, shout out to Riv Academy. But let's get right into it. Let's talk ball. I want to bring my guest up here from the 6-man show. Jonathan, how have you been, man?
Rivs, 3 episodes in 3 years, man. That's not bad. When you asked me to come on Riv Academy, I was like, Riv Academy doesn't exist. What are we talking about? Man. I got to troll a little bit. I know that's a running, joke, with the pick aside and with the Riv Academy fans. But no, man, I really appreciate you hitting me up, and I'm happy to stop by and talk a little Magic basketball.
Yeah, the joke was getting a little funny. Like, I started to run with it, like, all right, when is it gonna come back? Then they was doing fantasy reaction, and I was getting excited. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Bring it back. Let's do it. I've had a nice audience with it. People loved it. I'm seeing the views kind of go up. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm definitely gonna try it out this year, give a little bit of a different content than just this. But I'm happy that you answered the call. I appreciate you coming on here.
Now, you guys, all of our boys over at, Numbers on the Board now. I always try to say through the wire, but no, you guys are really good friends of ours in this content space and have always been really generous to us. So, and I love talking basketball. So why wouldn't I stop by? I joke, I got to roast a little bit because that's what boys do. But no, man, I really appreciate you having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So listen. Let's like I said, let's get right into it. Let's talk ball. I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I had the Magic making the playoffs last season. I did. I had them. I had them as a top shot. I'm like, look, this team, I think we had a 3-way bet. It was Orlando versus Brooklyn versus Toronto, and I took Orlando. I'm like, there's no way you guys think Brooklyn, Toronto are gonna have a chance, and of course, I ended up winning. But talk to me. How did you feel? Just give me like your thoughts, your feelings throughout last year. I know it was a little bit of a roller coaster. At one point, you were one of the best teams in the East. You were a top 3 seed. Then you fell off a little bit. There was at a point where you even beat Boston and you felt like you legitimately had a chance. Run me through just your overall feelings of last season.
I tell you what, bro, like Black Friday last year when we beat Boston in Orlando, part of the in-season tournament, we're winning it all, baby. We're coming for it. Obviously in the moment you get a little hyped and everything, but no, I mean, even myself, who I consider one of the most optimistic Magic fans, right? I always try to be positive. I always think we're gonna win a lot of games. This is gonna be the year, all that kind of stuff. I thought we would win like 43 games last year. And I thought that was if everything broke the right way, like if all the development stuff went well, if we stayed healthy, maybe had a little bit of luck from teams, around us in the standings. And all of that broke our way and more. And I just think especially Paolo Banchero, Franz, Wagner, Jalen Suggs, those guys made such big strides. And then you talk about a guy like Jonathan Isaac coming back and finally playing, 50 plus games for the first time in over 4 years. And the defense just being one of the best teams in the league. All of that was just sort of like the perfect storm for the Magic. And then, yes, other teams around the Eastern Conference had, their injuries, which definitely helped. But as a Magic fan, and, I think I speak for most Magic fans, is we were absolutely ecstatic at the way that last year went. And sure, we would have liked to have that home court advantage in the first round. You just missed that, but you had a tough 7-game series against Cleveland. You took them to the brink. You're up 18 in the first half on the road in Game 7, and then the inexperience sort of started to show itself, and you end up losing that game. But I really believe if the Magic had home court advantage in that series, that was the difference in that series. No road team won a game in that series last year. So I think if the Magic had home court advantage, they had a good chance to make it out of that first round, but just super excited for this coming year.
Yeah, no, you have an insane claim because, like you mentioned it, no team in that series won a road game. And, you guys were the ones that were up big, Game 7. You started off, you punched them in the mouth. I don't even think it was like Game 7 felt like an experience thing, but I just think the best player on the court at the moment just showed up in Donovan Mitchell. He just started to activate, get in his mode. But yeah, you guys had a a strong chance to come out that series. I definitely took you guys for granted, and then after like game 4, I'm like, shit, I'm actually getting a little nervous. The Cavs might actually lose this. But talk to me a little bit about just Wagner's Olympic run. How did you feel about that? How did you feel about him? Because I'm sure you kept tabs on him in the Olympics. How did you feel about his game overall?
For sure. So one of the things that we've tried to do over the course of the last 3 off seasons is obviously after June, there's not any NBA basketball to talk about. But after April, the last few years, there hasn't been any Magic basketball to talk about. This year, we got into May a little bit, but no. So the last 3 years, we have our show has really followed the German national team. 2 seasons ago, it was the Eurobasket tournament, which took place in Germany, actually. Germany ended up, I believe they won the bronze at Eurobasket. Then last year, the FIBA World Cup, they win the entire thing. So we had pretty reasonable expectations for Germany going into the Olympic tournament to, make it out of the knockout round and make it deep into the tournament. And I felt like Franz had a good tournament. He ended up, I believe, 2nd or 3rd in total points scored in the tournament. But as the tournament went along, you saw it, against France, you saw it against Serbia. Other teams pretty much figured out that we're going to throw everybody at Franz and Dennis Schroeder, obviously. If those guys give up the ball, make other guys make plays and make shots, if that happens, we can kind of live with that. But they lost to France and they lost to Serbia because that didn't happen. Their role players just didn't really step up. So Franz had a good tournament, didn't have a great showing against France or against Serbia, but those teams were literally just selling out to stop those guys. And you even saw it when Germany played Greece, right? Like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Germany's entire defensive strategy was, hey, if we can make everybody else beat us and not let Giannis beat us, we have a chance. And they had a pretty convincing victory over Greece because of that. People were like, oh my gosh, Franz didn't play well, blah, blah. It's like FIBA is such a different game than the NBA. You don't have all these other high level athletes around you to really preoccupy the other team's defense. So Franz played well. We would have liked him, to shoot the ball a little bit better. That's become a concern amongst Magic fans. But overall, had a pretty good showing in the Olympics.
Yeah, you just meant, well, first of all, him being that young and being one of the primary guys for a country.
He's 22 years old.
Yeah, he's
23 in a couple of weeks here. He's so young.
Yeah, he's gonna be the guy for Germany going forward. Like, this isn't just something new. He will be going forward in the Olympics and FIBA. One of the guys, Dennis Schroeder's a little bit up there in age, but he's one of those guys. And you mentioned it. You're talking about the jumper. That's been a legit concern even throughout this year. Going into the Olympics, that's been a real concern. How concerned are you guys as Magic fans about his jumper improving? Because, he is a wing. He's one of those young, prolific wings that are, going to be, talked about in conversations with J-Dub, with Cade, and guys that age. So how concerned are you with his jumper improving, if it does at all?
So the first couple of years, he was right around league average, between 34, 36%, somewhere in there. And then this year, the shooting just seemed to drop off of a cliff in the NBA. And a lot of us were like, man, obviously he has to play in the Olympics for Germany. It's a massive deal. It's a dream come true. It's a huge deal for his family. But if he didn't play in the Olympics and just decided to take the summer off and work on his game, I don't think that would have been the worst thing in the world. But you're not going to ask a guy to turn down an opportunity like that. And the shooting struggles continued through the Olympics. If you would have asked me 3 months ago what my concern level was, it would have been relatively low. Sure, he had a bad season. If he can have a good offseason and bounce back and get back to that level, he's going to be just fine. The fact that it doesn't really seem like he's improved since the end of the playoff series against Cleveland in terms of shooting, I have a healthy level of concern. I'm probably at a 5.
Okay.
And I'm going to wait. We still have a couple of months until the regular season starts here. So he does have time to work on that and improve a little bit. He's been, a fairly good free throw shooter. The form isn't completely broken. He could use more lift. The release looks a little bit flat. But if he can improve on those areas just a little bit and get back to league average, you feel really good about his development path moving forward. But I would be lying to you if I said I'm not concerned at all. I'm about a 5.
Okay.
Ask me 25 games into this coming season, and I may give you a different answer.
Yeah, because I don't think his form is bad. He actually has a nice release, nice form to the jumper. It looks good. It's just you watch the relative decline from last season to this season and then the Olympics. I don't know what it is because I don't think he's bulked up a ton to where, like with Jason Tatum, you see he's bulked up, so the jumper obviously looks funny now. But I don't know with Franz, that's such a key component to his game because as a wing, and Orlando is already lacking in the spacing department. You kind of need to be a threat out there to fully, embrace that wing, do it all type of game. But listen, you had a good offseason. The big splash move, of course, was you picked up KCP. You drafted Tristan da Silva in the draft. Walk me through your offseason. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Could you have done more? Like, what were your thoughts going into the season? What did you think you need going into the offseason? And did even in the draft too? And did you address that in your opinion?
Yeah, so we needed shooting. Everybody's known that. Everybody's said that about the Magic for the last decade plus. And we went into the offseason, with like $40 million in cap space. So there were guys out there. Then you start to hear the rumors right before free agency starts. Oh, they're getting a meeting with Paul George. We heard all year long they were interested in Klay Thompson. It would have been crazy, right?
That would have been crazy.
Now it looks like that was really just used, for leverage from Paul George's camp, which is whatever, right? But just the fact that the Magic could be like, oh, well, we're going to have a meeting with Paul George, and then things change. You have a little bit of clout that you can throw around when it comes to these negotiations now. But ultimately, it was like we need to address shooting, whether that is going out and getting a superstar level talent, like Paul George, who can shoot it and self-create, or if that's a guy who's, aging but can still shoot the ball at a really efficient clip in Klay Thompson. Then it's like, okay, maybe do we want to try to upgrade the center position? Do we want to go after a guy like Isaiah Hartenstein? So there was like a lot of guys that we were thinking maybe the Magic just go out and throw a bag at. The Paul George thing seemed to evaporate pretty quickly. So the Klay Thompson thing, Isaiah Hartenstein, you hear 30 seconds into free agency that OKC, they're headed to, Eugene, Oregon to meet with Isaiah Hartenstein. You're like, okay, I guess that's not happening either. And then it's like the big splash is getting Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, which like in a vacuum, when you go from thinking you might be getting a guy like, Paul George to getting KCP, it can seem like a letdown. But when you think about what he provides for a team, like he matches the Magic's identity so well. You look at the fact that he's a guy with multiple championships coming off of a great run with a really talented Denver team, provides that shooting. The pairing with him and Jalen Suggs in the backcourt defensively is going to be ridiculous. So that was great. And then really most of the other moves that the Magic made were bringing back their own guys, whether that be to, terminate the second year of their team option, bring them back on a longer deal, that type of stuff, bringing back Gary Harris. Corey Joseph was like the last move that they made at the end of the offseason there, extending Franz Wagner, obviously, bringing back Goga Batadze as well. What people, I think, sort of underestimate is the fact that when you were letting guys walk, like a Markelle Fultz, who was making $17 million a year, like a Gary Harris, who last year was making $13 million a year, when you don't move those guys at the deadline and with the perception that, oh, we're just going to let these guys walk, you lose like massive trade chips in negotiations when you're dealing with a lot of these teams where you have to make the money match. So at that point, it became like, well, Franz Wagner is only making like $7 million. Paolo's making, $10 million or whatever. Like, if we want to make a big move, we don't really have the money to make those moves work regardless. So what the Magic have effectively done is bringing some of these guys back on more expensive long-term deals. And they're not bad deals. Like, they're all tradable contracts if you go and you look at what the Magic did this offseason. But the Magic have put themselves in a position where the next time somebody isn't so happy in whatever location they're in and they want to move, and maybe they put together a short list of teams that they like to play for, the Magic, they play in a market without state income tax. They're a good competitive team on the rise, a lot of potential moving forward. The Magic are hoping that they're going to be one of those teams on those lists. And now bringing some of those guys back, you sign Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to a relatively big deal, but still reasonable for the type of player that you're getting with him. Now they have the chips that, hey, if we need to put money together to go out and get a guy that makes $40 million a year, guess what? Now we have those contracts to put those together to make a move like that. So a lot of people will just say, oh, well, the Magic are running it back. Well, the Magic won 47 games last year, and they added one of the best like perimeter, like 3-and-D guys in the league in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. And you're getting another year of that development with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, up and down the list. So we're really, really excited about the offseason that we had in Orlando. I think you asked me for a grade. I would give us a solid B, right? Like, it's not maybe the home run, knock it out of the park offseason that we thought we were going to have. But when you sit back and you put those expectations aside and you just evaluate it for what it is, it's a really solid offseason.
Yeah, B sounds about right. I think, like you mentioned, shooting has been the knocking point for Orlando all season. KCP brings that. I think the Suggs KCP backcourt defensively is going to be really aggravating for a lot of teams, like really exhausting and suffocating. And KCP still has that type of vibe to him, and I think his 3-point shot is there. Really, like you mentioned, it's gonna be internally the development of Wagner, of Moncaro, of even Suggs also. Talking about these young players, like you have them two, Suggs, Anthony Black still hovering, Jed Howard, you have Wendell Carter Jr. What are your expectations for these young players going up? Like, what do you expect out of these young players? Do you expect Anthony Black to get more run in the unit now with Markelle Fultz seemingly off the team? Do you expect Wendell Carter to continue to improve? Moncaro, Wagner, Suggs. Like, what are your expectations for these young players? Like you mentioned, you won 47 games last year. You lost in a tough Game 7. You just watched the Knicks get better. You're gonna watch the Bucks come back healthy. Boston just won the chip. You still got Cleveland around. Indiana's one of those young teams. So what are your expectations for these young players coming up?
Yeah, so I'm just going to start right at the top. Paolo Banchero coming off of the All-Star season. Some people were throwing his name like in the All-NBA conversation. I saw the case that you could try to make, but for me, it was a little bit too early. But this year, I think that's where he should be. I think at the end of the season, make another All-Star team, and he should find himself squarely in the All-NBA conversation, right?
Yep.
Like maybe not first team, but should get some consideration,
sure.
second, third team. I think that's pretty reasonable for him. Obviously, just getting more efficient as a scorer, continuing to improve as a playmaker. I think he's underrated defensively. I think people don't give him enough credit on that end. For the most part, he's a net neutral on that end at worst. He's not a negative defender, in my opinion, at least. Franz Wagner to me is a question mark. That he's going to be really solid. Defensively, I think it was NBA University, I think, was sharing B-ball indexes, like a perimeter defense grades for Franz, his first few seasons in the league. And every year he's rated A-, right towards the top of the league in terms of like wing perimeter defense. For him, it's really going to come down to the shooting. If he can get that to click, we know that, all the other areas of his game are really, really solid. So for him, it's just, can you get back to league average from behind the arc and put that fear into defenses so that they feel the need to close out on you and open things up for the rest of the team. Jalen Suggs, it seems like they're handing him the keys, to the offense, like as the lead guard, right? He was effectively that for a lot of the stretches last year. Markelle Fultz goes down really early in the beginning of the season, comes back, never really looks 100%, was pretty much relegated to like a bench role. So he was given that responsibility to a certain extent, but I think we're going to see a step forward for Jalen. To me, that is a question mark, is whether or not he can do that full time. He does have a tendency at times to still get sped up a little bit, get into, some poor decisions, some bad passes and turnovers, things like that. But last year, he also showed flashes of improving as a 3-point shooter, was like 21, 22% from behind the arc a couple of years ago, his rookie year. Last year was right at 40%. And showed flashes of, like, I remember Joel Moran. I am going to find the clip eventually, and I am going to send it to Joel.
Right, I know what you're
going to say. Joel, listen, he has come around and said that he has been wrong about Jalen Suggs. But in one of the first conversations we ever had with you guys, I said, I still believe that Jalen Suggs has the potential to be a dynamic offensive player. And Joel Moran straight up laughed.
I think he said Eric Bledsoe or something like that.
I think it was Elfrid Payton.
Yeah, it might have been.
If I remember correctly,
it was something real disrespect. I remember that conversation.
Right, and I love Joel. I don't mean to sit here and roast him, but is Jalen going to be like this dynamic guy night in and night out? No, but I do think he has the potential to be a guy that, every 3 or 4 games, if you need somebody to pop off and get you 20 plus, he has the potential to get to that. We just have to see that next level. Like last year, I felt like early in the season when the Magic were winning a lot of games, the offense seemed to get off to the best starts where early in the game, Jalen Suggs was just like, I'm getting at the rim. He's so quick and so explosive that when the handle is tight enough, a lot of guys really cannot stop him from getting to his spots. So when he was putting pressure on the rim, it felt like it just opened up the offense for the rest of the team. So that's what I want to see out of Jalen next year. When we talk about a guy like Wendell was a guy that, broke the hand early in the season last year. When he came back, you could still see this massive bump on his hand. And I believe he I don't know if he had another surgery or something like that once the season ended. But that injury got re-aggravated at some point during last year. So Magic fans felt like he regressed a little bit last year, but it didn't really seem like he was totally healthy. So we want to see Wendell get back to the Wendell that we saw a couple of years ago now. Now that Franz is there and Paolo and Jalen, there's a different pecking order offensively. He's not going to put up the same offensive numbers that he was a few years ago, but we want to see him get back to that like borderline elite level, defender at the rim. Not really like a rim protector, but like a rim deterrent in a certain respect with Wendell. So, but when you talk about like Anthony Black, Jet Howard, or like a Tristan Da Silva obviously being a rookie looks really solid. We just don't know how much he's going to play. Anthony Black last year was in just like the weirdest spot ever, where if guys were out of the lineup, he would get playing time and look really, really good. But then when guys were healthy, regardless of how well he played when he was in the rotation, he would be right back on the bench.
Yep.
Jed Howard is a guy that did not play a single significant minute for the Magic last year. Every minute that he played came in garbage time because he spent the majority of the season in Osceola with our G League team. So he's a guy that looked fantastic at Summer League. Really excited to see if he actually gets an opportunity in the lineup this year. But when it comes to the rotation, it just feels like there's so many question marks still that we won't know probably until we're 2 or 3 games into the season, where we see how things play out. We go, okay, this kind of makes sense, but we are hoping that a guy like Anthony Black and Jet Howard especially get a little bit more opportunity this year.
If you had to just run me your 10-man rotation, like who would it be right now?
Yeah, so you're going to start Jalen Suggs, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr.
Yep.
Then I would go Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, Jet Howard, Jonathan Isaac, Mo Wagner. That's
okay.
just
no
me.
Goga.
No Goga. No, I like Goga. He was great, in stints when Wendell Carter Jr. was out of the lineup last year. But as good as he looked at times, he also looked equally as bad and just completely lost at times. He's a fine backup. If he were to, in other teams, in the reports that I've seen, it seems like we're pursuing him to maybe give him a little bit of a pay raise. And the Magic decided to match that to keep him in Orlando. Because if you look at Wendell Carter's injury history, you're going to need a replacement for 15 to 20 games a year for him. It's unfortunate, but it seems like it is what it is. So Goga Bitadze is basically like that Wendell Carter Jr. insurance. If he goes down, you don't have to disrupt both lineups. You can keep Mo Wagner with the bench unit. You can slide Goga into that starting lineup for 4 or 5 games if Wendell is going to miss that, and then you bring Wendell back in. You slide Goga Bitadze back to the end of the bench, and you don't really disrupt too many lineups.
That's interesting because, Wendell Carter, he does deal with his injuries and whatnot. You guys have a pretty solid big man rotation, though, with Wagner, with Goga, with Wendell, and then, of course, you got Banchero and Isaac. I think that's a pretty solid big man rotation. What about Cole Anthony? Because I feel like he's also another one that's in a not like you guys give him minutes. He seems like his role is seamlessly come in, give you that 6-man role, 6-man vibe. But eventually you want Anthony Black to be the guy for you guys. You want him to start, which would, sense that Suggs or KCP goes to the bench. So inevitably, what is the plan for Cole Anthony?
I honestly, I don't know if there is a quote unquote plan for Cole Anthony at this point. And that's not to say that he's not a significant part of what the Magic are going to do this year. But I think a lot of people just feel like at this point, Cole is essentially what he's going to be, which is like a really high level guy off the bench. When he's playing well, he can legitimately be a game changer, in terms of his like offensive organization and just the ability to like go out and get a bucket for a guy, at his size to be able to, take advantage of defenses the way that he is at times. It can be really impressive, but when Cole is struggling, Cole is like really struggling. And at that point, if he's not giving that scoring punch off the bench, it's sort of like, okay, well, what exactly is he giving you? And when you look at the way the Magic have really been trending, in the last several years, like the Magic want tall, long guys who are versatile positionally and can go out there and do a little bit of everything. Right now, when you look up and down the lineup, Cole Anthony is like the sore thumb sort of sticking out in that regard, is that, okay, all these guys sort of fit that identity and fit that prototype. He doesn't exactly. So I think eventually you do want to see Anthony Black ascend. I think ideally, if he were to become the point guard, I would like to see Jalen as the off guard long term, so that your backcourt would be Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs. And as you know, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he's no spring chicken. You know, he's going to age over the course of the next couple of years. But pretty much this year, we want to treat this year as if it's Anthony Black's rookie season, because when he was in and out of the lineup last year, you just don't have a real chance to get a good rhythm when that's your circumstance. And then when he was in the game, the ball wasn't really in his hands a ton. He was just relegated to the corner, where he was, relatively efficient, from the corner and from behind the arc. But that's probably not going to be what he is long term, if he's going to be a starter at least.
Yeah. I was a big fan of Anthony Black coming out. Pretty versatile player. So I'm very interested. And he, like you mentioned, he fits kind of what you guys are trying to build, sort of that long, lanky, switchable defenders that can also, do multiple things on the offensive end. So that makes sense. You picked up Jamal Mosley. You kind of took a chance on him as a head coach. He's kind of seemed like he's blended with the young guys, or he's created this new foundation similar to what Ime Udoka has done in Houston, probably, but he's done it before, of course, because he was hired before him. Talk to me about just Jamal Mosley's philosophy. Talk to me about his game plans and schemes. How is he able to kind of relate and connect with these young players?
Well, first of all, a little bit more faithful than Ime Udoka. That got him into a little bit of trouble. But no, like Jamal, honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect with the Jamal Mosley hire, but he's just come in day one and like you said, laid the foundation and has like cultivated this culture of no matter who we're playing, no matter if shots are falling, on a given night, we are never going to give up. Like even when the Magic were losing games a couple of years ago, not that long ago, the Magic could be down, 15, 16 points in the second half, but you knew at some point the run was still coming. They wouldn't always complete the comeback, and obviously they didn't win a ton of games, but at some point you knew that they were going to make a run and they were at least going to make the game interesting. And that's just a total credit to Jamal Mosley. And again, like the culture that he has built there. Teams know now when you come into Orlando or Orlando is coming into your building, that's not a night that you can take off. In previous years, we might not be the most talented team, but they're going to play their tails off. They're going to play at a high level with energy. They're going to hustle. They're going to make what we call the bell plays here in Orlando, and they're going to defend at a high level for 48 minutes. So the job that he's done and the way that you've seen him grow with this young roster has just been really impressive. Like Jamal Mosley is pretty much a made man in Orlando. I don't, there's not many, there are criticisms, and there are some fair criticisms of Jamal Mosley, but for the most part, like Magic fans adore Jamal Mosley and just like the culture that you see and like the chemistry. Everybody talks about how much these guys love each other and how much fun this team is. Every person to a man that you ask, where does that come from? Everybody points to Jamal Mosley. He's a leader of men is what he is. And we're just really lucky to have him in Orlando.
Yeah, I was at Orlando game. I think I went.
Yeah, you were, by the way. This man comes to Orlando, doesn't check in, doesn't. No, I'm kidding.
I did not check it.
But like, just like I'm gonna be there. Like, if you guys are in the area, would love to say what's up. Like, would have loved to catch a game with you or to get dinner or something like that. So next time, just do me a favor. Just let me know you're gonna be in the area. I just want to say what's up to my guy. That's all.
You know what's crazy? I really was like, when I got to Orlando, I literally forgot I was in Orlando. Like, it was a crazy thing, and I was there.
Some of the videos I saw of you, I believe that you did forget that you were in Orlando.
And I was just saying, sure. I'm like, oh wait, like Orlando's playing today. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, they're playing the Raptors. So I'm like, tickets like $30. We could probably sneak down. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we did. We snuck down. I'm thinking like, I should probably hit 6-man show up. I probably should definitely get in contact with them. But you know what? I'll be in Orlando again for sure this year, and we're gonna link. We're gonna go to a game. We're gonna link. Get some beers. I don't even drink beers, but I'll drink a beer because I know you drink a beer.
I'll drink a beer. I'll drink a cocktail. Whatever you're into. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I know. Drew has come down. A couple of times over the course of the last couple of years. So, yeah, man, we'll definitely link up for sure.
Yeah, because I was there and you felt it. Like, it's just different in there now. Like, I was in there. Toronto, they played. Scotty Barnes couldn't sit down. He's standing up the whole game, pissing me off, just up doing nonsense. But you could just feel it's different in there. You could feel the fans are starting to get more vocal. They're starting to be more excited about the team. And of course, this was toward the end of the year when you guys were winning. You know, so it's like, and you guys kind of knew like we're gonna get into the playoffs. Like this is like a foregone conclusion. But you could feel like Jamal Mosley is bringing that type of, I don't want to say Mark Jackson like, but you get what I mean. Like that, just that new foundation, that new like, all right, we're gonna be a competitive team for a long time, and that's something exciting because you guys, like you guys haven't had that since what, Dwight Howard.
Yeah,
So
it's been a long time.
It's been a
Trust us.
while. So, woo, damn, Dwight. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a while. So, you know, the excitement. Did you see what Boncaro said in the news the other day?
I saw what he's. I don't know if you're talking about today on First Take, like saying we should
Was that
easily be top
yes,
3 or top
yes.
4 in the East. Like that. Honestly, that's how we feel. You know, like
Okay.
you obviously you look at the top of the East and you see Boston, you see New York, you see Philadelphia, you see Milwaukee. I still have my doubts about Milwaukee. Like everyone's saying, like, oh well, Dame's not going to have another year like that. Like, y'all, Dame is 34 years old.
He might,
right? Like he might. Like Chris Middleton, I believe, is 31 years old. Brooke Lopez is 36 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that team is not deep because of their payroll. Like they've had to give up a lot of those, you know, ancillary role pieces. Now, you know, they added a guy like Gary Trent Jr. They absolutely needed that depth, but like, oh, you're a Steph guy, right? Like, sure, Steph is 36 years old, but Steph is never a guy that has had to rely on his athleticism. He's relied on shiftiness, intelligence, and skill, where like Dame, in terms of like getting to the rim, has always been like a quick, explosive guy and doesn't quite have that anymore. So if he's not hitting 35-foot Dame time threes, he's not really the same guy.
You're confident in that matchup. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, like,
you know,
your shit. we sat down and I'm not the kind of guy to be like, oh, we're gonna win the East, like none of that kind of stuff. Like I try to live a happy medium of like optimism and realism, right? I try to be as realistic as I can, but also like I'm biased and I'll never, you know, deny that or try to shy away from that. But when we were like breaking down the schedule, like last year, we had a stretch from like the beginning of December until almost like the end of January where there was like a 26 game stretch and like 22 or 23 of those games we were matched up with a team that the year prior was in the playoff conversation, whether it was the play-in or actually made the playoffs. So we were like, man, look at this gauntlet. We were looking at the schedule at the beginning of the year. When we looked at the schedule yesterday, when it came out, like we feel like even the best teams in the league, we have a chance to beat those better teams any given night, right? Like if you go into Boston, like, yeah, you're probably going to lose to Boston. If you go into Denver, like you're probably going to lose to Denver. But we get those teams on our home court, like we should feel like, yo, this is a 50-50 shot. Like with the atmosphere that you talked about that we have in the Kia Center now in Orlando, like we do feel confident. Like we feel like we match up really well with a lot of the teams in the league, especially the fact that this team hangs its hat on the defensive end of the basketball night in and night out. I think last year finished second or third in terms of defensive rating. And you went out and added a guy like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Like we should be, again, a top 5 defensive team in the league this year. And when you do that on a night in and night out basis, you're going to give yourself at least a chance to win most nights.
Oh, no, you guys would definitely – you finished second because I use that against Joel all the time when I talk about Donovan Mitchell versus Ant-Man. Bringing up your defensive rating is what I love to do because you guys are one of the best defenses in the league. But like you mentioned, I want you to combine your optimism with your confidence. Give me your team ceiling. What do you like? What do you think is like? So every team is different. Every team has a different goal. Not every team. I don't believe in that every team's goal at the end of the year is to win a championship. That's not true because every team's not built for that. Every team from the Kings to Boston to back down to Houston, everybody has a different goal. So what would be considered a successful season to you? What's your realistic ceiling in the regular season and the playoffs?
So a successful season for me, we were just talking about this last night, is like the Magic, if they are not able to get home court advantage this year, I'll be disappointed. You were the 5th seed last year. Honestly, the last couple of weeks of the season, like it wasn't impossible. It was unlikely, but you had an outside chance of even being the 2 seed. All the chaos that was happening in the Eastern Conference standings the last couple of weeks of the last regular season, like you were right there. If things, you know, break a little bit differently, you might be the 3 seed. I mean, we missed the 4 seed by a game, right? Like we could have had home court advantage. So, you know, it seems like every year there's a team that you think is going to be towards the top of the Eastern Conference. And for whatever reason, injuries, chemistry, something just doesn't quite work. a team tends to slide, right? So maybe home court advantage is a little bit too much. Like you should be right there, right? Like 5th seed at the absolute worst in my mind. And a successful season looks like the Magic having a competitive second round playoff series.
Okay.
Right? Like that's ultimately what I want to see. And you just never know what happens. Like Giannis and Dame, like those guys not being totally healthy at the end of last year, Joel Embiid, not being healthy, all the stuff that the Knicks were going through last year, the Miami Heat not really being healthy for the majority of last year. Like people talk about luck, but every team needs a little bit of luck if you're going to have like a deep playoff run. Like look at the Indiana Pacers. Credit to them.
They're so
I don't
not
think
good.
they get anywhere near the Eastern Conference Finals this year.
You're fucking
right?
cooking. Oh
Like,
my God.
and look, respect to Tyrese Halliburton, respect to Pascal Siakam, but like if Joel Embiid like is playing on 2 legs, they're not getting past Philadelphia last year. So every year you need a little bit of luck to get where you go. And I think with a healthy amount of the Magic overachieving a little bit, staying healthy, and maybe some injury luck from other teams, which we don't root for, but inevitably happens every year. The Magic have a, I don't know, 10% chance, maybe more than that, of making like an Eastern Conference Finals run. I don't know. But yeah, successful season to me. You should eclipse 50 games. Like I have this in like that 50 to 52 win range. 4 or 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, maybe even like Paolo said, maybe even the 3 seed, and playing in a competitive second round series. To me, I would be elated with that a year from now.
And I like that. Listen, I'm on my full Indiana hate tour. I will hate on them all year, and nobody's gonna stop me. They're gonna have to prove me all the way wrong. And I'm excited for this year. The hate is gonna be real. I will be hate watching every time they play. But you mentioned it. It could be like you get a favorable matchup, you get an unfortunate injury to another team. I'm gonna ask you because I'm very unfortunately, we have to do healthy versus healthy. Healthy, straight up. How does you in Boston look?
It doesn't look good.
Okay,
It doesn't look good. I mean, the way that they just ran through the entire league last year
it was kind of crazy.
and ran through the playoffs, right? Like, we had that big win, Black Friday, felt really good about that. Then we spent a weekend in Boston in December and just were completely dismantled, right? Like we had a healthy record, like, it was like 4 in a row against Boston, like including games in Boston. So we had all this swagger walking into Boston, like, yo, what's good? Blah, blah, blah. We had a little feud with Eddie House. I don't know if you saw that, a little back and forth on Twitter with the NBA champion Eddie House. But yeah, and then we got absolutely smacked. Like when you just look at that team, like top to bottom, all the talent they have, they're bringing everybody back. They've got that monkey off their back of winning an NBA championship. Like I would like to say that, it would be Boston in 6 games. You could sell me on 5 games. I have a hard time believing that a Jamal Mosley coach team would get swept by any team. Mm-hmm. But I would not love to see Boston in the second round.
It could be a tough 4-game sweep. Like every game is like close down to the wire.
Like the Lakers Nuggets a couple years ago.
Sure,
like maybe something like that.
Yeah.
I really hope not. But yeah, man, Boston is really good. They're the world champs. I do like the fact that we have a little bit of that championship pedigree and experience now with KCP, a guy that like, you come into practice on a Tuesday when the team's got a couple of days off and you're sitting at home waiting for a team to come into town, and you come in a little bit late and you're a little bit loose at practice. That's a guy that can be like, yo, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, if we want to be serious and we want to contend for championships, this is not the way to go about it. So the fact that we have a guy like that in the locker room now, I think is really going to be a big deal for this team.
You versus New York.
It's still tough. I like our odds a little bit better than Boston, right?
Of course.
But again, that's stuff that's all going to come down to health. Like, I have real concerns, not only for their basketball health, but like the longevity of their lives of these guys that Tom Thibodeau plays for and just like runs these guys into the ground. Yeah, if they stay healthy, like I really think that the Knicks have a chance. If, things don't go exactly right for Boston, I don't think there's a 0% chance of New York ending up as like the number 1 seed in the East this year. Like they're really deep. They're really talented. We had, that's another team where like, hey, we've won in New York a little bit, felt pretty good. And then I think it was in January last year, February, we went into New York and it was like our worst offensive performance of the year, like by a mile. Like they just stifled us defensively. It was so frustrating to watch, but it was really, really impressive.
Okay, and then we already talked about Milwaukee, so I don't even have to ask you that. You versus Philly, that's a tough one. If
It
the
is
big man,
tough,
the
you
big
know.
man, he looked amazing against New York. And he had one eye, so
No, I mean it's a problem, but again, like you can't deny that that's a massive question mark for
Mhm.
Philadelphia, right? Like there's a 50-50 chance that any given playoff series, like Joel Embiid is not going to be 100%, right? Now, 100%, like they're not that deep now, right? Like, and they weren't that deep before, but now, going out and getting a guy, like Paul George, like it's a team that they just don't have a lot of depth, in my opinion. And our bench unit was one of the best in the league last year. I think we did improve. Like you lose Joe Ingles, who unironically was a big piece of our bench unit last year, what he was able to do. But if guys can take a step up, I think again we have the potential, because the defense is so solid. I think we have the potential to. It's a really really deep team. Like the fact that we look at the roster and we're like, as good as Tristan Da Silva looked in summer league, I don't know that guy's even going to see minutes this year. The fact that we can say that, where 2-3 years ago it was like, well, we used a first round pick on this guy. Not only is he going to play, he's most likely going to start like 65 games for us. That's no longer the case. Like we genuinely feel like one of the biggest strengths that we have is our depth. And I think that you saw that in the Cleveland series, right? Like, sure, there were some struggles that we had with the starting lineup, but when Cleveland broke the starting lineup, that's when we were able to, make some pushes in some of those games. So I do like our chances a little bit better, against Philadelphia. Obviously, we wouldn't be favored in a series like that. But I think I would like our chances. I think we could push that series to 6 or 7 games.
And Friday night,
I wouldn't rule us out of winning it, to be
yeah.
honest.
Friday night, I definitely want to go get some drinks. So before we go, I do want to ask you one more question. The national televised games came out, the schedule came out, and you guys were pretty low in the nationally televised. Believe you had 10 games,
so we have 5. I don't count the NBA TV games.
No, we don't count those.
If you don't have like, if you can't watch the game just with cable, it doesn't count. If I got to pay for another subscription or another app, it ain't a nationally televised game. But the 5 that we had 1 last year, not counting the playoffs.
But do you feel like 5 is still a bit disrespectful to a degree?
When I see that the Spurs won 20 games last year, I know they have Wemby. I know they've got the alien, all that kind of stuff. But when I see that they have 13, when they won 20 games last year, it feels a little bit disrespectful. But for a franchise and a fan base who the last decade we really haven't had any, and we had 1 last year, we'll take 5. Next year we're coming for double digits, and we'll go from there.
Because I feel like this is the point. These are the moments where you have a star in Banchero, a rising star, could be one of the 7 best players in the world. Why would you not want to put more emphasis on watching him play, creating a bigger audience for him? Because, Steph's going to be gone soon. Kawhi, LeBron, Kevin Durant, like Jimmy Butler, like Paul George, all of our stars that we grew up with, they're going to be gone. Kyrie Irving and stuff like that. And, we have the John Morant, Stan Edwards, the Wembys, the Lukas and Tatums of the world, but we have so much young talent that we can continue to, put a lot of emphasis on watching these guys. It doesn't make sense to me.
We think there's a conspiracy because the Orlando Magic robbed the world of a Kobe LeBron finals back in 2009. And ever since then, the national media hate us. Some people think it has something to do with like the Paolo Banchero draft class a few years ago, where everybody thought it was Jabari Smith. And then 10 minutes before the draft, the script is kind of flipped on that. So I don't know. Those are all, conspiracy theories, and you can debate whether they're fun or not to talk about. But, just win games. That's going to take care of itself. I think it's a fair criticism of the NBA that maybe they haven't done the best job with marketing like the next generation of stars, and they're just squeezing every last drop that they can out of Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Steph Curry, which, understandably, like those are the most popular players in the world. But yeah, man, I think we keep doing what we're doing. We're fine flying underneath the radar. We really do not care. The only thing that we care about is not necessarily the recognition, but it's just the respect.
Right.
If and when you talk about us, know what you're talking about, come correct, don't be disrespectful, and we don't really care. It's just the fact that for the last decade or so, we've been like the punching bag and the punchline of the rest of the NBA. But, the jokes are over, my friend.
The jokes are over. Listen, man, Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming on here.
It's my pleasure. I had to roast you a little bit at the beginning, man, but seriously, I love you guys. I love everything that you guys are doing. You guys have been so great to us. You guys are inspiration to content creators all over the place. Keep doing what you guys do. And I know I've told you guys this a million times, but I'm always so impressed that we have, ESPN and we have Stephen A and all these guys that try to talk about all these sports and try to sound like they know what they're talking about, but they don't. The fact that you all are able to go into all these different spaces and have conversations and come off as entertaining and knowledgeable at the same time is so impressive. Like when it comes to like talking about the entire league, you guys are up there with our friends over at Numbers on the Board. And when it comes to talking about like multiple leagues and all of the teams in multiple leagues, like the NBA and the NFL, nobody does it better than Pick a Side. And that's not my bias. Like, that is my 100% legitimate, honest opinion. I love what you guys are doing, man. Thanks for having me. Keep Riv Academy going. Now that it's officially going, keep it going. I think it's great. I think you're doing a great job. Yeah, man, this was a lot of fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely. I promised. I put it on my son. I'm gonna give him NBA season.
So well, you gotta stick to it now.
Yeah, I can't lose my son in any of that moment. So I have to lock in. But Jonathan, drop what you need to drop so everybody can follow you, man.
Hey, the Six Man Show. If you're in Orlando, don't be like Riv. Check in, say what's up, come to a game with us. Not only do we have the pod that we drop every Monday and Thursday on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, but we do community events. We do watch parties with hundreds, if not like the playoffs. We had thousands of Magic fans, out, watching the playoff series. So if you're in Orlando or if you're just interested at all about the Orlando Magic, you can find us at youtube.com/the Six Man Show. You can find us on, I'm gonna plug the Patreon if you want to throw us a little cheddar, patreon.com/the Six Man Show. And you can find us all across social media at Six Man Show. Riv, again, my brother, I appreciate it, man.
Of course. And as a matter of fact, we're gonna mark it right now. When Orlando makes the playoffs, I will be out there for a playoff game. We will link up for a playoff game.
I will watch the game.
And when they win, we're gonna get drunk as a fucking ox. So
you will do that. I'll enjoy a drink, but I'll be there to make sure that you're all right. You know,
beautiful, because I'm gonna get drunk
great.
But yes, we're gonna lock that in. We're gonna get to a playoff game. Shout out to the Joel Moran Show, Fantasy Reaction, Pick a Side. Shout out to the Six Man Show, and of course, can't forget, shout out to Riv Academy. I want to thank you all for joining, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.